What did your classmate do that no one in your class will ever forget? I blew up a thermometer in chemistry class. We were supposed to be putting the thermometer into the water to get it exactly at 100 degrees or whatever, and I decided to take a shortcut and put it directly into the fire. Well, it literally blew up in my face. It was a mercury thermometer and the school had to call the fire department and ambulance to make sure I was okay, which I was. Not enough mercury to do any damage. But it earned me quite the reputation in school. A few years, one of my co-workers' son was going to the same school, and I told him what I did. He laughed so hard, because that story is still being told in that school more than 10 years later. Except that I'm not an urban legend, I'm a cautionary tale. Pretty mild. But we were in second year calc in university and a guy's cell phone started blaring insanely loud mid-lecture. To make it worse, it was a ridiculously cheesy pop song. He made the mistake of answering it, then realized that was a dumb thing to do, and bolted for the door. He tripped and fell on his face part way to the door, and then slowly dragged himself out the rest of the way. Catholic HS, at a pep rally. A kid gets up and gives a lap dance to a 90-year-old nun. We had a mentally handicapped kid whip his dick out in front of a table of cheerleaders at lunch. Apparently he was well endowed. Well endowed enough that one of them took his virginity our senior year. She cheated on her boyfriend, one of the star football players, to do it. Yay, small towns. Brought a gun to school, and he fired a shot in the middle of class. Edit. The guy was an all-round moron from a small nearby village, and this was in Central America in an already backwards city. He brought a chicken once and killed it by stomping on it. I always hated him for having done that. 8th grade, during super important state testing, a classmate decided it would be okay to run through the hallways, pulling down the pants of every student he came across, inciting a small riot. Every student in 8th grade got 2 days of in-school suspension. The actual perp got expelled. I was in history and we were doing presentations. The school captain was in my class, and it was her turn. Basically, she was going through her USB to find her presentation as it was being projected on the board. She had some hentai vids. Not me, but my brother. There was a kid in his class, Jeremy, who wasn't quite all there. One time Jeremy went to the toilet and didn't return for about half an hour. My brother was asked by the teacher to see where he was. As he started down the corridor towards the toilets, my brother sees Jeremy walking back towards the class, except his arm was soaking wet. My brother asks why his sleeve is wet. Jeremy replied, "The toilet was blocked, and guess who had to unblock it?" I'm not quite sure what happened to that kid. Classmate in my junior year died in a car accident. He was a stand-up straight A good-looking intelligent athlete. Had it all going for him, then one weekend decides to go buy beer _ith_some buddies. It was dark, cop gets behind them on the way home and tries to pull them over for what we learned later was speeding. They panicked and ran for it _ith_ their headlights off hoping to evade. They hit a tree. This classmate had his seatbelt off and leaning over stuffing the beer out of sight in case they got caught when they hit the tree. He was thrown into the dash, breaking his neck and dying instantly. It was a sad day at school that Monday in 1991. Edit clean up. Edit 2. No other passengers nor the driver in the car were seriously injured. It was the unique position he was in addition to no seatbelt that resulted in his death. In high school we had some old wooden low-to-the-ground cupboards with doors for storing old textbooks. One guy decides to make a bet with his friend that he can fit in said cupboard. He manages to squeeze himself in, and friend shuts the door and leans against it for the duration of the class. Finally the kid in the cupboard manages to force his way out. Teacher doesn't even bat an eye and just says, "Nice to see you finally come out of the closet." I was probably a junior or senior. We were in last period algebra and they called the band to gym to get ready for a pep rally. Kid pipes up trying to be a smart ass and says, "Hey, I'm in the band." Someone turns to him, "Oh yeah, what do you play?" And without missing a beat the kid replies, "The skin flute." Silence. His turns bright red. Everyone slowly turns to look at him and bursts out laughing. This is the late 90s. A friend of mine wrote a program for our French teacher's computer, so on startup, it would play Les Marseillaises and a dick would pop up from the bottom of the screen and wave back and forth in time to the music. Took a shit in his pants while standing up. It was my fault really. We were lined up waiting for our copybooks to be corrected. He asked if I would keep his place if he went to the toilet. I said I would if I got to skip him when he came back. He stayed, and in a few minutes a little poo fell out of his trouser leg onto the hard-wearing carpet the classroom had. The teacher sorted it out. We were 8 years old. I still think about it sometimes and feel bad, but then again I was 8 and he was 8 and hopefully he has forgotten it happened. One classmate of mine brought a gnome to school for no apparent reason. He was one of those class clown, popular kids, so no one really questioned it. In between classes he decided to scream and shatter the gnome by throwing it as hard as he could down the stairs. Don't believe he got in trouble for it, but everyone knew he did it. Still have no idea why he did that though. Her name was Michelle. She got the clap twice from the same guy weeks apart in a school bathroom. But what she will always be remembered for is walking into 4th period Spanish class. Michelle's entire face was covered in cum. Her shirt was covered in cum. Cum was smeared on her pants. She walked into class, silently spit an ungodly amount of cum in the trash can beside the 60-year-old teacher's desk, said she didn't feel good and simply left. Walked out of the school. How did she get covered in cum? She hosted a gangbang with 5 male students in a disused teacher's bathroom on the 1st floor during class. She and all 5 participants were caught laughing and walking into the bathroom together via CCTV camera. They were also seen all leaving separately and at different times, Michelle last. She was hauled into the office and excitedly confessed to what she did. She and all 5 male students were charged with public indecency, a few other smaller things, and then possession, manufacturing and distribution of child porn, because 2 of the young gentlemen filmed the act. All 6 participants were 15 and younger. All 6 were shown leniency. Child sex charges dropped and sentenced to various community service hours, and 3 of the 6 spent roughly a year in juvenile detention. Michelle is now 22 and a meth addict in our hometown. She makes me sad. She was a genuinely smart kid that had a lot of promise. She self-sabotaged and openly talked about how much she wanted to live off welfare and never work, just like her mom. TL. Doctor, a classmate allegedly had sex with a cheerleader in the bathroom during 2nd block. The story goes that this guy had planned to meet up with this girl, who was a cheerleader, in the men's bathroom during 2nd block one day, the most public men's room mind you. The guy walks into the bathroom and waits for the girl to come along. She walks in, and they do their thing in the 3rd stall. Apparently a couple of his buddies were assigned to guard the bathroom, to keep anyone from stumbling upon them mid-act. I remember a kid in my French class was trying to ask the teacher to go to the bathroom so he could witness this. He told me what was happening at the time, before it became public knowledge around school. This event was planned in advance, and was a well-kept rumor until they got caught that same day. The rumor leaked, as most do, and administration looked into the situation. The principal checked the school's surveillance camera feed, and behold, there was footage of the guy walking into the bathroom, and then minutes later a girl walks in. She was wearing a hood and trying to be discreet about it, knowing that there was a camera there. However, she wasn't very smart and was wearing her cheer hoodie, which had her last name on the back of it. To wrap things up, they both got expelled for the rest of the school year. We called the guy 3rd stall for the rest of high school. A kid who had gotten kicked out of high school a few months before graduation flew a plane over our graduation for like an hour. The kid was a dumbass, but he had his pilot's license. He flew well below the FAA standard, 300 to 500 feet, and that night he got arrested for it. He ended up losing his pilot's license. Still, it was a great graduation ceremony that I won't forget. Edit, spelling. When I was an undergrad in an engineering program, we were all required to take one class from the other engineering disciplines. The class from civil engineering was some sort of materials design nonsense that none of us understood or cared to learn. The professor was a 90-year-old Indian man who I'm sure knew his stuff, but at this point in his life, had no business teaching. He was small, wrinkled, and very hard of hearing. To the point that he had high-powered hearing aids in both ears. The problem was that we were convinced he turned off those hearing aids when he came to our class and just wrote on the board and rambled for 50 minutes. No questions were answered, no raised hands were acknowledged, nothing was repeated. One day toward the end of the semester, one of my classmates brought in a recorder flute, one of those plastic units from kindergarten, and proceeded to serenade us all for about 20 minutes. Professor never turned away from the board, never stopped writing, never stopped rambling. He couldn't hear the flute and he couldn't hear us all having laughing fits from 1, the absurdity of the situation, and 2, a small relief from the stress of engineering. Legit one of the funniest things I've ever experienced. We had a super chill sub one day in aquatic science and kid A brought her taser to school with her. Why? I don't know, and kid B decided kid A should tase him, just to see what it was like, and the sub was fine with it. Kid B peed his pants. The kid who caused the school to shut down Metal's shop. He was making pipe bombs, caltrops and machetes. One of his pipe bombs went off in the school, and it was shut down for a day. Good times.